What's up? It's your boy. All right, guys. So I've been sort of borderline obsessed with all of this Berkeley nonsense that's been going on the past few days. I didn't really get that much into it in March when the Milo protest was going on. And that's just because I think in general I was just kind of fed up with Milo as a human being, and when I saw the shit he was doing, my initial thought was he's just doing it for attention, and these people are letting him receive that attention, basically. Uh, so my basic characterization of the Berkeley protesters at that time was just your typical liberal idiot. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that characterization now because the more I've been looking at Berkeley, the more I've been looking at Berkeley politics, the more I seem to be realizing that Berkeley's kind of a unique place, um, specifically UC Berkeley. One of the things you'll notice if you actually know anything about UC Berkeley as an institution is that they are widely regarded as, if not one of the most accredited institutions for English departments, right? Um, and if you know anything about critical theory, if you know anything about postmodernist theory, if you know anything about any of that shit, you know that's kind of where all the social justice warrior shit started. It's kind of where the deconstruction of our culture started. It's kind of where this far progressive quasi-Marxist movement we see going on, specifically with Antifa, started. So it makes sense on a logical basis that Berkeley would be the quote unquote battleground where these conservative speakers who go to speak there would be faced with this far left opposition. Now, that's not to say uh, I'm kind of in the middle in regards to these protests because while I mean, I obviously agree that what Antifa has been doing during, say, the Trump rally that happened last week, during the Milo protest that happened in February or March, whatever month it was, the actions they committed were obviously ridiculous and unjust and completely radical. I mean, it's a low level degree of terrorism. If they weren't using LARPing gear, if they weren't using toys and actually using real knives and using things that could actually hurt somebody, they could do a lot of fucking damage. You know, and to me that says to me that they're not completely serious. That says to me that they're not ready to actually go to jail for a long period of time. They're not actually ready to lose their lives. But their groups don't seem to be dying down. And the more that they congregate together, the more that they continue to talk to each other, I think the more radical they can get. And when that happens, they can eventually go to a protest with a knife or a gun. I've heard there have been knives at this past one, actually. So it's not going to take much, and all it's really going to take is one crazy motherfucker with a gun. It's going to take one crazy motherfucker with a gun who has the freedom to do what he wants because the Berkeley Police Department isn't going to do shit. We've heard from their chief, Andrew Greenwood, already that they are not prepared to go in and stop these assaults because, as he characterizes it, Andrew Greenwood, by the way, was elected Berkeley's chief this fucking month. He was the interim chief of police for the past 6 months, but it was only early April that he was actually appointed to be chief of police. And I've done a video about that you can go check out to see more about the Berkeley chief. But like I said, all it's going to take is one guy with a gun to actually go into these fucking protests for all hell to break loose. And the policy of the Berkeley Police Department is basically at this point to seal the perimeter basically. And if there's any actual altercations that take place between, say, a Trump supporter and an Antifa member, they don't want to get involved because, from their perspective, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Number one, and from what, and I'm not making this shit up. I mean, the chief actually said this. He said that these protesters are trying to make themselves out to be victims of the police. When they see a policeman, they actually run up to the policeman. They don't run away from the policeman because they want that policeman to assault them so that they can go to jail and they can tweet about it and talk about how much of a victim they are. And that's going to just further the quote unquote movement. That's how ridiculous this is. And that's how victimized these people are. And that's how, and every time that happens, it's only going to create more dissidents, because people on the left eat this shit up. They love a good story about a protester who was beaten up by a cop, even when the cop was totally in his rights to beat them up. I mean, that's the problem with these contemporary protests, is that the only way that these protesters who are desperate for attention, the only way that they can get more notoriety than the rest of the protesters is being beat up in a way that is more substantial than the rest of the protesters, and they can take pictures of themselves all bloodied and bruised and put it on Facebook and put it on Twitter and put it on YouTube, and then they're all of a sudden the symbol of a movement, which is what they secretly want. So going into Thursday, going into Ann Coulter speaking at Berkeley, I kind of look at these far leftist places, and I follow Berkeley and Antifa on Twitter. It seems like they're kind of gearing up for another round. There have been suggestions to maybe tone it the fuck down by some of their members. Now that could be, I don't know, maybe some free speech guy who's kind of infiltrating and pretending to be Antifa. I don't know. It could be just some Antifa member who's like, hey, maybe we're kind of getting too fucking crazy with this. I did actually, today I learned the actual origins of the term Antifa and where the actual organization came from, because I was listening to Naked Ape and Kraut T's podcast about it. And apparently it was, according to Kraut T, it originated from Italy during World War II, and Antifa was actually a term coined by Mussolini to describe his political opponents, and so it was actually a term of derision, and then eventually it kind of got bigger and bigger until they kind of took it in stride, ironically. But that's for another day. The actual thing, another thing I wanted to point out, is that these conservative people, I mean, Ann Coulter, Milo, all these motherfuckers, there's a reason they're going to Berkeley, right? Because they know how undisciplined these people are. They know that if they go in and they act perfectly reasonable, and if they seem, if Ann Coulter just makes her seem to be out like the nicest person in the world, and Milo goes in and he just goes in and he says, well, I'm just giving a speech. These people are going to act like fucking animals no matter what they do. And so the media is going to portray it as, these reasonable conservatives versus these savage leftists. I mean, and that's why conservatives love this shit, because the more they do it, the crazier the left seems. It's an easy win for them. And for some reasons, liberals refuse to acknowledge how fucking crazy Antifa is. I've been thinking for a long time that there is a clear line of demarcation between a liberal and a progressive. I don't identify as either, but I think for those on the left, it actually does make sense that if you want to actually pick up your political affiliation, the group of people that you identify with politically, if you want them to fucking come out of the ashes of the Trump election, you need to begin to be taken seriously. And you cannot begin to be taken seriously when you have these fucking fascist thugs calling themselves anti-fascists, parading around, stabbing people, throwing fucking grenades, throwing fucking bottles, all of this bullshit. You can't have that shit happen. And this is, I mean, Berkeley is actually a very unique place. There's a reason I think this is all happening in Berkeley. Uh, and like I explained before, part of it is UC Berkeley and how fucking progressive it is, how deeply entrenched critical theory and postmodernism is at that university. Another reason I think is the city administration. I made a video last week about Jesse Aragon, who is the first. I think he's the first Latino mayor, if I can remember correctly. But um, I mean, as I said in the video, he was elected for his first term in November, basically around the same time that Trump was elected president. I think it was the same day, and I can't confirm this, but I think the fact that this guy was at the height of his political career at the same time that Donald Trump completely overshadowed him as the presidential winner, I think it must have fucking pissed him off, you know? And I think he sees himself as someone who's in opposition to Trump. And that's something I wanted to bring up. Okay, so I mean, I've been kind of obsessive about this. I've been listening to their city council meetings for the past week. And I mean, I'm a journalist, so I go to a lot of city council meetings. These city council meetings are fucking crazy because if you go to city council meetings, what basically happens at those meetings is, the city council and the mayor, they talk for 30 minutes to an hour. They go through the agenda, and the agenda is basically about roads and bridges and all that bullshit. It's very, very boring stuff. It's about infrastructure. It's about emphasizing something good that happens in the community. Usually, you give special recognition to citizens of your city who have done something good that week. You read a few proclamations and you adjourn. The Berkeley City Council basically does this, but I'm gonna have to fucking find this shit. Something that I really find fascinating about their city council is the amount or the degree that they're willing to go and talk about national politics. If you're a fucking mayor, you should not give a shit about national politics. The only reason you should care about the federal level is the applications you submit to the federal level to give you money for certain projects. They have the federal system has tons of grants and shit for local cities. I'm getting the fucking spinning wheel. Can you fucking believe that? But they have tons of grants for local cities, and most mayors are trying to stay competitive with other cities, and they're trying to get as much as they possibly fucking can to make their city better. Jesse Aragon now has in the I mean, I've only looked at the past 2 or 3 months because their meetings are like fucking 4 hours long, and it's fucking insane. He puts these agenda items on that where basically anything that Donald Trump is doing that week, he makes a resolution to oppose it. They had a meeting today, and he put on a resolution, for example, to oppose the budget, the 2017 fiscal budget of the U.S. government for this year. Him and the city council voted to pass a resolution that just says, yeah, we don't like it. We disagree with it. You know what? I'm sure Donald Trump is. I'm sure when he sees that, I'm sure when someone tells him about it, he's just going to cry. He may tweet about it, because I mean, he tweets about other stupid shit. But the city council does. I mean, you want to talk about Trump being fucking dumb? These guys are just as bad as Trump. They talk about shit that is just not fucking important, not relevant to their citizens. Now, the other obvious thing about Jesse Aragon, which has been on kind of all over the news lately, is that he's been seen to be in a Facebook group for BAM, which is By Any Means Necessary. Sargon of Akkad actually just did a very good video today that kind of describes what BAM is and their affiliations and how just fucking extremists they are. And it's very crazy. And like I said in the video that I put a few days ago, I don't think that necessarily means he endorses it. If I'm a mayor, I'm going to follow every fucking Facebook group about my city. because I want to make sure I want to put my finger on the pulse to make sure that all of these groups are copacetic, that none of them are going to blow up a building tomorrow, that none of them are going to protest tomorrow. Like if I'm a mayor, I want to know where the protests are, so number one, so I know to drive around when they're there. And number two, to kind of warn people and to kind of make sure the police is organized and that everything is done and needs to be where it needs to be, you know? And not only would I want to know that they're there, I would want to know how extreme are these people. Are they are they a bunch of 60-year-old ladies who are mad about the environment, or are they actual like Antifa protesters who want to just burn shit down? That's actually important. So so I have an article from Fox News called UC Berkeley Riots. Violence looms as mayor questioned over ties to extremist group. Now, if I know it's Fox News, and some of you motherfuckers may not like Fox News, it's actually a pretty good article. And from everything I've seen about coming from Berkeley, it's pretty much extremely accurate. And they actually got some quotes and got some perspective that I haven't looked at yet. So I was just going to go down this article. Let's look. The University of California, Berkeley is likely to once again be the site of brutal protests on Thursday as questions arise about whether the city's mayor has ties to an extremist group sparking violence. I mean, he has ties, right? I mean, he's friends with the leader of BAM. That was confirmed. I mean, he's Facebook friends with her. He knows her. And look, the thing about Jesse Aragon is he is an incredibly progressive socialist dude. Like the city council, not this meeting, but the meeting that they had earlier this month, they decided to just fucking ban fur in the city. they're so fucking progressive, and no one opposed it. Like they're just gonna ban fur. Like you can't buy fur in this fucking city. We're Berkeley. We're awesome. Fuck you, fur. I mean, that just shows, number one, that PETA, which is one of the stupidest fucking organizations in the world, totally controls the city council. They're not like puppeteering the council, but like this council totally agrees with the agenda of PETA, the agenda of and other super far left groups that try to masquerade as centrist groups. Ann Coulter has vowed to move ahead with a planned appearance at the university, despite Berkeley trying to reschedule her speech over security concerns. Law enforcement sources told Fox News that regardless of whether the conservative firebrand shows up, there's a 99% chance that the college will erupt in violence. Okay, so that actually goes against what I've heard. They are planning on doing more stupid shit. And the thing about it, if you actually care about your university, I mean, I went to fucking college. I love my fucking college. I would never burn college property. I would never throw a fucking brick through a window in my college. These guys don't give a shit. They're hurting themselves. They're hurting their own progressive institutions because they have no goals here. Like what do they expect to accomplish? But I can guarantee you that the people who were in Berkeley during the Trump protest are going to be there again. Stickman is fucking. He does not sleep. He's always ready to bust some fucking cucks up. The sources are helping the Berkeley Police Department prepare for what is now seen as an inevitable showdown over First Amendment rights to free speech. That is true. Charles Sidhill, a retired commander from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department who met with Berkeley police on Monday, said that authorities are preparing for the worst because extremist groups from across the spectrum are heading to Berkeley, and because the past three protests that devolved into violence were met by a lackluster response from local police, which is another reason that it's become so popular to protest in Berkeley. I mean, the thing about it is you basically have these two groups fighting each other with no police presence. I mean, the police are not doing shit, and Lauren Southern had that report that said that she asked one of the cops, why aren't you helping? And the cop basically told her, you got to talk to my chief, Now, it remains to be seen what that actually means. It remains to be seen whether the chief is actually saying, let them do their own thing. I don't know if he fears a lawsuit. I don't know if he supports Antifa. I don't know what the fuck he believes, but it's very strange activity. And this fucking former sheriff's guy is totally right. I mean, It's lackluster as hell, man, and it's a civil war. It is a civil war that's going on, and I mean, depending on how this comes out, I mean, the Ann Coulter thing is going to be big. I mean, there's going to be some violence that erupts. I kind of want to go just to watch the fucking fireworks, but the real thing, the real shit that's going to go down is later this year when Milo goes back. Milo Yiannopoulos is, it's kind of he's sort of planning a return because he kind of fell out of the media after he was humiliated with the the pederasty thing when he said it was okay for an old guy to have sex with a 13-year-old boy if the 13-year-old boy was mature or whatever. Everyone kind of dismissed him after that, but he's trying to become relevant again, I think, with this, and he's planning on having like a week-long party with conservatives and with YouTubers all in Berkeley. That shit is not going to go well, man. It's not going to go fucking well. And I mean, and depending on how the Ann Coulter thing goes, I think what we need to watch with this Ann Coulter thing, we need to watch how the police reacts to this, because what this article is suggesting is that the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department is going to crack the fuck down. These dudes do not fuck around. They are not policemen riding a bicycle with a flower on their helmet. You know, these guys mean fucking business. We've been told that they're going to come no matter whether Ann Coulter comes or not. And the next riot is not a standalone in isolation, but a natural consequence of the lackluster approach of the past, Heal said. Well, I'm glad he's fucking saying it, man. Someone has to fucking say it, because every prepared statement that I've read from the mayor and the chief, they're both saying, we're so proud of our police department. They did a bang up job. And then you have videos from fucking We Are Changed and from fucking Lauren Southern and from fucking Stigman who all show them doing jack shit when the real shit goes down. People were becoming vigilantes, and yeah, basically. Heal and others said there is deep discord between the Berkeley Police Department and the city government, led by Jesse Aragon, the 32-year-old newly elected mayor facing his first major test in running a large city. Aragon has been accused of supporting left-wing violence because he is a member of the Facebook group By Any Means Necessary, or BAM, an anarchist group that has incited violent protests across the country. Yeah, and like I said, go see Sargon's video on that. I can't do anything better than what Sargon did. It was a really great video. Yvette Filarka, a BAM national organizer, was unapologetic last June after her group shut down a neo-Nazi protest in Sacramento that sent 10 people to the hospital. We will do it again, she said. The Nazis had to run and hide to hide the police. Like, oh my God, shut the fuck up, dude. Who is scared of BAM? Who is scared of a feminist protest group, man? It's the most ridiculous shit. You know, what are they going to do? I mean, if they had guns, that would be a different story. But I mean, I don't know what the fuck these people do. Why would? And also that she just calls everyone Nazis. Of course. I mean, this is Nazis versus communists. You know, the Trump supporters call them commies. The communists call them Nazis. Like, it's so fucking like this is just, it's feeding off our worst instincts. You know, it's feeding off of the worst of ourselves. You know, that you know, the people that conservatives hate communists on a gut level, and liberals hate fascists on a gut level, you know, and just it's this name calling it's making these protesters feel like the other group are not people. And when that happens, when you know, the group on the other side of you just becomes a faceless mass, that's when you feel that you're justified to do really terrible shit. On social media, following a particular account does not mean you support that group of individual. This is the mayor talking. I was following this particular group so I could stay up to date on what they are up to. I condemn their violent actions in the strongest terms. Now, that's actually good, but I mean, talk is fucking cheap, Jesse. I mean, we've seen nothing from you showing that. And one of the biggest problems with you is the fact that you're not a mayor for all of your constituents. You know, this is a guy who openly says that we don't support the values of Donald Trump and his party. Now, if you're a conservative in Berkeley, how the fuck is that supposed to make you feel? How the fuck is that supposed to make you feel? That you have a mayor, you have a public official who doesn't give a shit about you because of your political positions. You know, if I'm a fucking Republican in Berkeley and I have a problem with a road problem, or I want to call in a complaint, I can't feel totally safe knowing that the police are going to come in, or that the government's going to do something, because I know that they hate my fucking guts. That's what happens when you have an activist fucking politician. But a source close to Berkeley city government accused Aragon of bolstering leftist groups by secretly aligning themselves with them. Now that's interesting, because I haven't seen any evidence of that, but if that's true, that could be big. Mayor Aragon is not representing all of Berkeley right now, the source, who wished to remain anonymous, told Fox News. He's coming from a deeply leftist position, which is absolutely fucking true. Like I said, they just banned fur. In the wake of one of the most dangerous protests that we've had in recent memory, the city council is worried about banning fur. Let that sink in. We have some very radical elements on the police review commission. Jesse is emboldening them because he was a majority on the commission. Oh, that's another thing, by the way. Berkeley is one of the main cities. They're the city that's trying to spearhead the whole sanctuary city thing. They actively say that if they find an illegal immigrant, if they arrest someone, right, for jaywalking, for a ticket, for a crime, or whatever, the police have actively stated that if they find out that person is not a legal citizen of the United States, they will not call customs. They will not call the federalis to fucking deport them back, right? So they are basically refusing to work with federal immigration and customs, because that's what Donald Trump wants, and we can't have what Donald Trump wants. Fucking dumb. The mayor was criticized for basically handcuffing police officers who patrolled the April 15th tax day riot that resulted in 11 injuries, including a stabbing. Critics said he restricted police officers so much they could not do their job. If the police went in more aggressively, more people could have gotten hurt, Aragon was quoted as saying. We have to balance how we respond with the goal of trying to keep as many people safe as possible. Now, in my experience, the mayor doesn't really fucking do that much when shit like this goes down. Number one, this didn't happen in the city limits of Berkeley. I mean, this happened at UC Berkeley. UC Berkeley is owned by the state of California, and UC Berkeley has its own police department. Now, when the protests got to be too much, the UC Berkeley police was called in. The city of Berkeley police was called in. And when that happened, my assumption is that goes to the chief. Now, as I said before, Chief Andrew Greenwood was appointed earlier this month. So it could be possible that he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. I mean, that's totally possible, because what happened was that when the Berkeley City Council was trying to hire a new police chief, there was a lot of controversy because they didn't do what you normally do in that situation, which is advertise nationwide. You look for the best candidates and you hire the ones that you feel the most is the most appropriate. They didn't do that. What the city manager did was basically say, Andrew, the guy who's been serving as the interim chief, he's been doing such a good job. We all know him. We all like him. He's from Berkeley. He has our values. So let's just hire him. And the city council all said that, and they all agreed. And there was, if you go to that meeting, were a lot of pissed off people, a lot of pissed off Berkeley residents who said, if I have a police department, I want to have the best fucking chief I possibly can. I don't want to have a guy on there just because he's from there. Which makes sense to me, Apparently doesn't make, but that whole values thing. I mean, this is another case of they want a guy who is liberal as shit. They don't want a cop who actually is kind of a badass. And when you have a police department, you need cops that are badass. You need cops that are going to be able to go into dangerous situations and do what needs to be done. All right. Okay, so I lost my place. But yeah, I mean, as I was saying, if Aragon was calling the shots during the Berkeley protest, that would surprise me. That would really surprise me. He doesn't seem hands-on to me. He doesn't seem like a guy who is eager to get into, the workings of the police department, he doesn't seem like a guy who is managing from the top, in my opinion. Aragon said all protesters who commit violence will be arrested in Berkeley, no matter what side they are on the political spectrum. Unfortunately, extremists from both sides have come to Berkeley in recent weeks to engage in provocation, he said. I'm not surprised that he said this, but actually, I fucking hate this because Armored Skeptic said the same thing the other day. He was having like this weird video where he was coming to terms with his life and how shitty it is or something. But he was like, I'm a centrist. When I see the Berkeley protests, I just feel like there's Nazis and there's communists. Like the thing about these protests is that the Trump supporters are, in my opinion, in the complete right. If you're a leftist, you can be pissed off that they're there, but you cannot fucking do anything about it. You cannot restrict their free speech. And even if you think it's hate speech, you can't do anything because number one, it's not fucking hate speech. Most of these people are fucking regular conservatives who are not racist, who are not sexist, even though you think they are. And the really, and as we all know, the fucked up thing about the last Berkeley protest was all of the Trump supporters were gathered into they were corralled into this big square with orange cones, and they were forced to give up any weapons they had. And what happened was that all the Antifa members got outside of that perimeter and they just started lobbing shit at them. It's fucking ridiculous. But Hill would like to see a more proactive approach on Thursday rather than a reactive one. There's a disconnect from a realistic approach on how to deal with violent protests, he said. The politicians need to understand they are representing the majority of the community, and their personal agendas may not meet the overall community. That fucking exactly, dude. Fucking exactly. And that's the problem when you elect a fucking activist mayor. Jesse Aragon has a cat named fucking Shay after Che Guevara. That's how fucking insanely left this guy is. How can you possibly expect a guy like that to treat the conservative constituents the same as the liberal constituents? That's my main problem with the motherfucker. I don't want an activist as a mayor. I don't live in Berkeley, but if I lived in Berkeley, I would be pissed off. I would be super pissed off. A city official told Fox News that she is receiving emails from concerned citizens fearing that police officers are not doing enough to protect them. Yeah, and from city council meetings I've watched, there are people going to the city council saying, hey, we would like to see you address this. We feel unsafe. We want to know what you guys are doing, basically, to make sure that this is as safe as possible. And they don't say anything. They just listen and they say thank you. There have been at least 3 UC Berkeley free speech protests that have devolved into violence since February 1st, leading to 34 arrests, 39 injuries, and property damage totaling at least $100,000. There have been calls on Coulter to cancel her appearance to avoid further bloodshed, but Aragon and Heel say they support her for standing up for her First Amendment rights. I fundamentally disagree with everything someone like Ann Coulter stands for, Aragon said, but in an open society, she has the right to speak, and students and community members have a right to peacefully protest her. Yeah. I'm glad I hope he's sincere when he says that, but everything I've seen says otherwise, because the thing, he may be a liberal, but he may be a liberal who is, he's not a liberal because he's fucking Cesar Chavez is like his fucking hero. But he surrounded himself with progressives. He is Facebook friends with one of the organizers of BAM. If he doesn't outright support the marginalization of conservatives on these campuses, he at least supports and gives encouragement to the people who actually go and commit these violent acts. Antifa, I believe Antifa totally believes that Jesse Aragon is on their side. I really believe that. Besides, Hill said protesters will show up if she cancels her speech. Will still show up if she cancels her speech, which is true. This is the thing now. Berkeley is the battleground. It is ground zero. Once this happens, and once the Milo thing happens, I think it's going to spread. That's my real. That's my real concern. Because everyone, with all the shit with the alt-right, everyone's talking about a race war. I don't believe that. I don't believe that shit, because number one, the alt-right is a bunch of fucking nerds. They don't have the fucking organization to actually go and do an actual protest. They can't stop watching anime for 2 seconds to do that. The real problem is Antifa. The real problem are the left. because these guys have been born and bred in institutions like universities. They've been born and bred in the tradition of protest of I don't want to sound like fucking Glenn Beck, but Saul Alinsky. Like those tactics, they use them on a regular basis. I mean, they are implementing this in reality. It's not just a meme to them. Um, and I can guarantee you that there are other people, there are students in other colleges who are looking at Antifa and they're saying, good job. They're saying we should be doing the same thing over here. They're saying that in Harvard, I can guarantee you. They're saying that in Oxford, all the Ivy League colleges, I can guarantee you. And all it's going to take is for a conservative intellectual, well, not even an intellectual, because I don't think Ann Coulter's an intellectual. I think she's funny, but she's not an intellectual. It's going to take a popular conservative figure to just go to a university to break their safe space. That's all it's going to take to trigger them and cause giant protests. And it's going to spread. It's not going to make any difference if she cancels at this point, He'll said. The extremists are going to come here. It's terrifying. Well, you know what? I don't think that this article, and by the way, this is a very fucking unbiased article by Fox. In fact, I think it's too unbiased because I think it doesn't give enough credit to Trump supporters who were mostly nonviolent. You look at those videos, you look at the tapes, all of the Trump supporters, they never started the fight. There were a few of them that got kind of rowdy, but they never actually punched anyone. They basically said, hey, if you're here to punch me, fucking punch me and we'll go. I'm fully prepared. And when that happens, when you have people who wear black masks like a bunch of cowards, please don't dox me, Antifa. Please don't dox me. But when that happens, you have to show up with the attitude that, hey, if you want to have violence with me, go for it. I am prepared to fight you if you want to fight me. But to actually begin the fight, you have to punch me first, because I would rather not fight you. I'd rather go and listen to the speakers at the Trump rally. But if you want to fight me, I will fight you. I am prepared to do that. And that's only going to get stronger. I'm really interested in how this Ann Coulter thing is going to go down. It's going to be very fucking interesting. And Ann Coulter's not exactly the most subtle figure. She's going to fan the flames. That's the thing, man. If you're a conservative celebrity right now, you can just get on the front page of every news station. All you have to do is go to Berkeley. All you have to do is go and say, hey, Trump is great. I'm gonna go talk about how Trump is great at Berkeley. And then there are going to be these massive protests, and they're going to burn down a building. And the next day it's going to be your face, and the headline's going to be Trump or Antifa burns down building because of blah blah blah. And that's just free publicity. That's free publicity when you are completely 100% righteous, when you have done nothing wrong. That's how fucking crazy it is. All right. Anybody in the chat? Nick's here. What's up, Nick? I think that's all I got. I just wanted to share my thoughts of that. Like I said, I've been completely obsessed with this whole Berkeley thing, man. I've been watching these city council meetings. I've been watching these protest videos, all this shit. It's if you dig too deep into it, you start to see that this isn't going away. You see how deeply embedded these ideologies are, and that these people have no signs of slowing down. The only way they're going to slow down is either if they're put away in jail, or if they get the shit beat out of them. And one of those is going to happen. This is going to keep happening until one of those two things happen. The thing about Antifa, because Antifa in America, I think, is a relatively new phenomenon. I don't know the history behind American Antifa, but they seem to be. when I first see them, I laugh because they seem comical to me because they're kind of they're role playing. They're LARPing. They look like they are engaged in some sort of like video game. Yeah, and it's funny to see. And they like have swords or axes or some shit. They have ridiculous fucking weapons. And so I mean, it's funny to look at and it's funny to watch. But I think as these guys get more organized, as these guys begin to understand how to be agitators and how to be effective agitators, they're going to get more and more dangerous. And when Berkeley police doesn't do shit about it, they're just going to keep doing it. You know, fucking scary, fucking scary. Wish I lived in kind of wish I lived in Berkeley. I kind of want to see how all this shit goes down. All right, well, that's I think I ranted enough for tonight. I will see you guys later.